I'm delighted that Mr. Pai has asked me to speak on innovation in government and what India can do. So ladies and gentlemen, India is growing at about 7.5% per annum. Last quarter, we grew at about 8.2%. But our challenge is really to grow at much higher rates of 9 to 10% per annum, year after year for 3 decades or more, to be able to lift a very, very young population. We are passing through a window of demographic transition, which rarely happens in history. Almost 70% of our population is below the age of 30. Our average age is about 29. And this, to my mind, is the biggest transformation that is taking place across the world. That is, the population in India is getting younger and younger, will keep getting younger till 2042, whereas the population across the world will keep getting older and older. And rarely across the world, when you have such young demographics, has a country not created wealth. And how do we create wealth in society is the critical challenge for India. I think without innovation, it's not possible. And it's necessary that innovation is driven by government. Government acts as a facilitator and catalyst, and innovation spread across India. I think first and foremost, it's important to understand that India has had, over the last 70 years, made itself extremely complex and complicated. We'd added a lot of rules, regulation, and procedures. And therefore, one of the biggest innovations the government has done is to really make India easy and simple. I think the first and foremost principle of this government in the last 3 to 4 years has been, how do we make it easy and simple? And this required to do away with a lot of human intervention at different points. So first and foremost, all government departments are being digitized in a very big way. They're cutting across human intervention so that there is no human intervention. And across all departments, the process of digitization has been immense. And that is primarily the reason why India has jumped up 42 positions in the ease of doing business. If you look at Government of India, many of us do not realize this, but 98.3% of Indians pay income tax online. Wow. And almost 98.3% Indians pay income tax online. Almost 65% of this income tax filing which is done is all settled within 60 days, and it's all digital. All digital. Secondly, the government has brought in the public finance management system. Within the government, you have the public finance management system, and therefore every single transaction that I do or any government official does is digitally tracked till the last point. Many of you would recall that one of our earlier prime ministers, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, had made the statement that only 15 paisa reaches the poor people. And that was simply because we used to take money from central government, transfer it to the state government to the district to the panchayat, block level. So you're passing through several layers and several government middlemen by the time it reached the beneficiaries. Today, the government does direct benefit transfer, that is using Aadhaar, that is the biometric. We transfer money straight into the bank accounts of beneficiaries. We've done this in 500 schemes of the government. There is a direct benefit transfer straight into the bank account of the beneficiary, across scholarships, across benefits, across a vast number of schemes of Government of India. Teachers get their salaries straight into their bank accounts, and therefore huge number of fake teachers, fake scholarships, fake beneficiaries have all been eliminated. And the government in 500 schemes has saved 90,000 crore rupees. 90,000 crore rupees has been saved. And this, to my mind, is the biggest innovation of the government, which has yesterday been ratified by the Supreme Court of India in its Aadhaar judgment, that actually innovation and digital technology really pushes, and India cannot lag behind in technology, and it has used technology to push the limits of better governance, better efficiency. So it has used direct benefit transfer. It uses the public finance management system to manage its system. Fourthly, the government has pushed the digital payments. All of us used to do our transaction in cash. India was essentially a cash economy. 97% of our transactions used to be in cash. And now, a lot of that transaction is digital. Earlier, we used to use credit cards, but now we have the Bharat interface for money called the BHIM. And when the BHIM came in, you could do transactions straight from your mobile. All digital payment transactions, actually, for the last 1 year, I've not done any cash or credit card transaction. I do all my transaction using my mobile. I used to use the BHIM app. And then we have all the banks linked up at the back called the Unified Payment Interface, which is one of the biggest innovations in the world. All the banks are linked up at the back, and when I use my BHIM, the payment simultaneously gets either debited or credited. And after BHIM came in, Google came up with its Google Tej. And because it innovated and it realized India is going to be a huge market for digital payments, Google innovated and came up with Google Tej and walked away with 76% of the market. And now WhatsApp came up with WhatsApp payment. So what you are seeing in the digital payment space, innovation by government through BHIM, innovation by government through the Unified Payment Interface, Google's intervention by Tej, and WhatsApp payment. And what I envisage is that in the next 4 to 5 years, because we are a country with 1 billion plus mobiles, we are a country with 1 billion plus biometric, all this payment in India will be through mobile. And India will be the first country in the world actually which will make debit card, credit card, all this will become, and ATM machines will all become digitally redundant, and all of us will be doing our payment using mobile. So this will be one of the biggest technological transitions. This will be one of the biggest technological transitions which will take place in the history of mankind. The next point I want to make is that, when I was about a decade back, I was working in the government of Kerala, and I was working with traditional fishermen. And one of the challenges was that how do you raise the incomes of traditional fishermen, because they used to catch fish. And they used to get only 22% of the marketed price because there were so many middlemen in the layers. The fish used to be auctioned at the beach. By the time it reaches the consumer, like Mr. Pai, there were 18 different middlemen. So the challenge was, how do you increase the returns to the traditional fishermen? So we brought in outboard motors. We gave them outboard motors. We formed self-help groups. We gave them crafts. We gave them nets. And for about 3 years, I worked with traditional fishermen day in, day out, and one of the biggest challenges was not about providing better technology to them, but about opening their bank accounts. Chasing physical banks and physical managers was a nightmare. It used to take me 9 to 10 months to open bank accounts for traditional fishermen and their self-help groups. It was impossible to get bank accounts open. Know your customer was a nightmare. Last fortnight, I walked into a bank in Delhi, and on a handheld device, using my biometric, I opened my account in 55 seconds flat. So we have come from 10 months, taking 10 months to open a bank account and know your customers. We can now use biometrics to open a bank account in less than a minute. This is the paradigm shift in terms of innovation that has taken place in India. It's a huge, huge shift. It's a massive paradigm shift in terms of innovation. And therefore, across the board, if you look at public finance management system, if you look at income tax, if you look at digital payments, if you look at DBT, all this have been great innovations. Then we came up with the goods and services tax, which is about a unified tax system across the country. India had 70 million we had about 70 lakh taxpayers in 72 lakh taxpayers in about 70 years of our independence. We had 72 lakh taxpayers. And in 1 year, we are going to get an equivalent amount of taxpayers. That is, you are doubling your number of taxpayers through GST by using digital economy, through digitization. You are doubling your number of taxpayers in 1 year flat. What you did in 70 years, you are going to do in 1 year. 1 year, and that means you're formalizing your economy. 1 year of GST will formalize your economy both in the number of taxpayers. And just imagine what it will do. It will enable your tax base to grow over a period of time. This will enable the government to spend money in a highly informal economy. From an informal economy, you move to a totally formal economy. And this will enable you to spend money on education, on health, on several other things. And on nutrition, and all these things. And this formalization of economy is happening because of this great innovation of goods and services tax, which was innovation in terms of the constitution, innovation in terms of a digital framework at the back, and innovation in terms of having one tax across a country which is bigger than 24 countries of Europe. So this has been unique innovation. And then, just on the 23rd of this month, the Prime Minister launched the he'd earlier launched the Ayushman Bharat scheme in Bijapur district of Chhattisgarh, which is to link up 150,000 primary health centers with the district hospitals. One of the challenges, in India, the biggest challenge today is that a poor person he runs 66 lakh people go below the poverty line in India because they do not have access to health care. And 66 lakh people go below health care because they can't reach doctors and they are not able to take care of their medical problems. And this is the biggest challenge. So once you link up 150,000 primary health care centers to the district hospitals digitally, and it is all being done digitally. I go to the primary health care center where you have a medical care assistant, and even if there is no doctor, I'll be able to access my doctor digitally from the district hospital, and all the specialists will be able to guide me digitally. And this, to my mind, will be one of the biggest transitions ever of linking up digitally from the grassroots level to the district hospital, and providing all specialist care to the patients. And secondly, on 23rd, the Prime Minister launched the biggest healthcare initiative in the world. And India will be providing to 500 million people, that is 50 crore people, healthcare of up to 50 crore people will be entitled to healthcare insurance up to 5 lakh rupees. And this will all be cashless. This is a cashless scheme. This is a paperless scheme. This is a portable scheme. If you are a laborer in Bihar and working in Tamil Nadu, you'll still get it through a cashless, paperless mechanism. So it will be portable. And this 500 million people means that the population of America, population of Europe, and the population of Mexico all put together. And India is cracking a healthcare insurance scheme which is larger in size and scale than America, Europe, and Mexico put together. And therefore, this innovation of providing health care to people at the grassroots level and providing medical care insurance to people below poverty line, 500 million people, is the biggest innovation done anywhere else, anywhere in the world. No other country has tried it. No other country has succeeded in doing it. India is doing this innovation. And therefore, all this, the GST, the healthcare, the digital payment, all this will throw up a lot of data. All this digitization is going to throw up a lot of data. And therefore, India needs to bring in data analytics. India needs to bring in artificial intelligence. And actually do a lot of deep dive into this data so as to ensure that we cut away with all this, the challenges which I faced when I was a young officer of dealing with physical banks, dealing with physical managers. All this will die out. Banks who do not get into artificial intelligence, banks who do not do data analytics will die out. There will be no physical banks. There will be no physical bank manager. All this will be digital. And therefore, only banks which will survive will be those which are digital. And it's very important to understand this, that the speed at which India is moving, no country has moved so rapidly. And the speed at which government is moving, nowhere in the world has the government moved at the speed for innovation, for data analytics, for artificial intelligence. And nowhere in the world is there such a big gap between the government and the private sector. And it's important that the private sector keeps pace with the government in the movement forward in terms of technology and artificial intelligence. And I'm saying this because I'm speaking before the biggest management body, that there is a big gap between the government's perspective in terms of taking India forward in using innovation and driving change, and between the private sector. And it's important that the government is 10x ahead of the private sector in innovation. And it's very important. And it's very important. And it's very important that Mr. Pai and Mr. Mehta drives private sector to keep pace with government in innovation. Because the size and scale of what the government is doing is enormous. And it's very important that we push for this change. Having said this, I also find a great innovative spirit amongst our young people. There's a different energy, vibrancy, and dynamism when I deal with young people. We in government are also doing a great innovation, doing a unique innovation, and that is the innovation of restructuring our education system. For years, we've copied the Anglo-Saxon system of studying and passing classes and moving from one class to another. But we've launched this Atal Innovation Mission, and in the last 1.5 years, we've supported close to 3,000 schools in India, where from class 6 onwards, we are providing robots, 3D printers, Internet of Things, and in each one of these schools, young students from class 6 onwards are getting used to artificial intelligence, the fourth industrial revolution, and all of them. And many of these schools which we have supported, and we keep having competition amongst these schools. We keep having competition amongst IITs, public schools, and amongst government schools. And more often than not, Intel, which works with us, IBM, which works with us, in all these competitions, the government school students have been found to be more innovative than students of public schools and of IIT. Because the problems and challenges of water, of waste, of food, of how to provide seed and fertilizer to farmers, all these are challenges which students from government schools face, and they want to find solutions to the problems of India. And therefore, my view is that if India can find solutions to its problems of how to manage waste, how to manage agriculture on a real-time basis on weather and soil conditions, and how do we manage our, a huge amount of challenges that we confront in water management, which will be a very big challenge for the coming years. If India is able to find solutions to these problems, we will not be finding solutions to the 1.3 billion people of India, but we'll be finding solutions for the next 7.5 billion people of the world who will be moving from poverty to middle class in the next decade. The next decade will be a huge market. It will be a massive market, and that market will be of those who will be moving from poverty to middle class. As urbanization happens across Africa, as urbanization happens across Asia, there will be a huge market of 7.5 billion. And that is where our innovation must lead to. We must be able to find solutions. And that's why I'm pleasantly surprised, I'm pleasantly amazed at the energy and vibrancy of young Indians. And I'm amazed that a young girl called Pranshul Bhandari is able to find solutions. She started with Mandarin and Chinese, teaching Indians how to speak Mandarin and Chinese, but then realized that the market is about teaching English. And in 1 year, through her app called Hello English, she taught 9 million Indians how to speak English. 9 million Indians, no school, no college has been able to do it. This is amazing. Or look at Baiju, where Mark Zuckerberg has invested his own money. It's the biggest disruption in terms of technology which is being carried out in the schools and education. And to my mind, what Indian students are doing through various other things, through Guru, through Upgrade, through extra marks, is that they will be tracking every single student on a longitudinal, latitudinal basis like we track Uber cars. And therefore, in the years to come, we'll see a huge improvement in learning outcomes simply because we'll track students. Or see the kind of revolution which is being brought out in the area of mobility. We have in Bangalore, Ather Energy, young students from IIT Chennai who started their S340 scooter, started manufacturing it with charging stations, and they will be the next Tesla of the scooter world. Young boys at the age of 24, 23, 24. Or look at what young people are doing, J-Star, AgroStar, all these are doing in the world of agriculture. Or weather company, they are providing seed fertilizer to farmers on a real-time basis. So what we are seeing is a huge amount of innovation, massive innovation taking place at the grassroots level, and we need to spread this. We need to spread this from Mr. Pai's city of Bangalore it's spread from Bangalore to Hyderabad now. We need to take it to Pune. We need to take it all over India into our Tier 2, Tier 3 cities so that they become the innovation belts of India. But we are also seeing a lot of innovation from many, because India has combined innovation, innovativeness, and skill to do great innovation. Many of the top innovations for the world have happened in India. Today, we have close to 1,100 multinational companies in India who are doing their research and development here. Their R&D hub is based here. So if you look at GE's ECG machine, low-cost machine, which they used to manufacture for $35,000 in USA, they started manufacturing in India for $3,000, the same machine for $3,000. It enabled them to do ECG for $1 as compared to $35 in the USA. So what India has demonstrated, or look at John Decree's 60 HP tractor, innovated in India, sold across the world. Or look at Honeywell's turbocharger, all innovated here in India and being sold across the world. So a lot of innovation. I was very pleasantly surprised when I went to the Shell factory in Shell R&D center in Bangalore last fortnight. They've innovated this conversion of waste into petrol and diesel in India, which will enable them to get petrol and diesel at a much lower cost through waste in India. And they say only Indian waste is suitable for conversion into petrol and diesel. So this is all multinationals' innovation only on Indian waste. And therefore, India is the hard belt of innovation. What innovation can happen in India, nowhere else can this happen. And therefore, my view is that across the board, whether it's government, whether it's young people of India, whether it's multinational corporations, all of them are innovating. And India is a great innovative nation. We've been able to combine a great innovative spirit with our genius of skills, of technology together to produce goods at prices which are unheard of in the global markets. And therefore, we'll penetrate global markets. But we need to spread this, much like our Atal Innovation Missions, where we are supporting incubations. We are supporting incubation centers at a very young age. We are supporting tinkering labs from class 6 onwards. We have supported 20 incubation centers, but we'll be supporting 500 incubation centers to push the limits of incubation. And therefore, my view is, ladies and gentlemen, we need to start young at a very young age to change the minds of people, that we have to find solutions to our problems. And if we find solutions to our problem, the whole world is open to us. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Kant. May I request President Aima, Mr. Pai, to kindly present.
Folks, the big bull of India, please give him a standing ovation.
I request President Aima to kindly present a memento to the Honorable Chief Guest.
Just imagine if all of you have the same passion, the same energy, the same drive, and the same ability to talk to people, how India will be. That's the challenge.